People might get offended when I say this, but I'm not building momentum for my dad or for my mom. You know, I'm not building it for them.
Hey, what is going on? Welcome back to another video. My name is Chia and I'm a real estate agent here in Sacramento and Elk Grove area. So this video is going to be a little bit different today. For the next 4 weeks, I'm going to be sharing with you guys a 4-part series of an interview that I recently did with Jonathan Yang, the CEO of Hmongmentum. And if you guys haven't heard about Jonathan yet, definitely go and look him up on Facebook. But this first part of the video is only going to be like an introduction to Jonathan, how Hmongmentum was created and born. And if you guys stick all the way until the end of this video, there's some information that I wanted to share with you guys as well. So definitely make sure to watch the whole video until the end. It is a pretty long video, like 20-minute long video, but it is so worth it. There's so much gold nuggets in this conversation that I did with Jonathan, so hopefully you guys enjoy. So if this is your first time here, consider subscribing so that way you guys don't miss any of these 4-part series for the next 4 weeks. But without further ado, enjoy the interview.
Tell us a little bit about yourself, like how old you are, married, kids.
Yeah, it's a good question. I think that's something that, you know, it's a little intentional, right? When I started Hmongmentum and before that, Shareable Moments, you know, my whole brand has really been about other people, right? Because I started interviewing other people. I started with showcasing Hmong professionals, right? So, you know, the highlight's always been to other people, and I like it that way. But, you know, it's nice to tell my own story, you know, and thank you, Chia, for giving me that opportunity to talk a little bit about my own personal story. I think it's pretty interesting. And so to share, I'm 26 years old, even though I look like I'm 36. You know, some people, anyway, so yeah, I'm 26 years old, born and raised in Fresno, California. Went to Clovis West High School, and then after graduating high school, I went to UC Davis, just right down the street from Sacramento here. I still live in Davis right now with my wife. I'm married a little over 4 years now, and we have a dog, no kids yet. In college, I studied philosophy, so I was a philosophy major. And it's interesting. I mean, if you had asked me, you know, in college, like, hey, what are you gonna do after graduation? I would have told you I would go to grad school, right, get a PhD, and then teach at the university. I wanted to be a professor, right? And I actually was in a master's program at San Francisco State for 1 semester in a philosophy program. I was living in Davis. My wife was a student. I was working in SAC and also commuting to SF twice a week for graduate seminars. As you can imagine, that was a lot, right? And I had to provide for me and my wife because she was a student, and so that got too crazy. This was right after graduating from college, and so I made the decision to quit grad school. So I voluntarily left graduate school, and I just started working full time. And my professional background began in youth development. So I worked a lot with youth and academic tutoring, after school programs, and things like that. And then I kind of just fell into what I do now, which is digital marketing, entrepreneurship, and helping other people figure that out. Yeah, so that's sort of my background up until now. Just recently, beginning this year, I had a full-time marketing job at a local nonprofit here, but I quit that to do Hmongmentum full-time. And I'm sure we'll talk about that some more. But that's just a little bit about, brief sketch about who I am. You know, born and raised in Fresno. My parents are Victor and Michelle Ye. My dad works for Fresno City College. My mom raised me and 4 other siblings, so 5.
So it's 5 of you total.
5 total. Yeah, I'm the youngest of 5. That's not too big compared to
compared to me.
Talk to talk to Niga people, right? I tell them, I have 4 siblings. Like, that's a lot, right? It's not that bad.
I don't see too many like young cats under 30 like doing what you're doing.
That's a problem.
The fact that you're telling us now that you are 26, it's mind blowing. It's so good that there are young entrepreneurs out there under 30 that are killing it, that are doing a big impact right now for the community. Because there's not too many of that.
No.
And you see that.
And that's exactly why I'm doing what I'm doing, right? It's exactly what you're saying, Chia, and you're exactly, capturing what I think is a big problem not just in the Hmong community, I think in general, right? But definitely the Hmong community, college students and people right out of college, they're not doing the things that they really want to do, right? And because of that, and one of the biggest reasons why is because they're afraid, right? They're obviously afraid. They're afraid of failure, afraid of rejection. And for me, you know, this I remember the moment clearly. It was right at the beginning, January 2017. That's when I first started my interview show, and then when I started interviewing people, because before then I had always wanted. Right at the end of 2016, I had this dream. I said, "Oh, I'd love to have my own talk show, right? I'd love to have my own talk show. I'd love to interview guests. I love chatting with people, right? And if I could interview anybody, I'd love to just interview Hmong professionals, right? I'd love to know, you know, what's their story, where they came from, why they're doing what they're doing. And like most people, I thought, man, I'd have to that's if I want to do that, it's gonna happen so later on in my life, right? I have to go to school first, I need to work first, I need to get experience first, I need to you know, I told my mom, early on what I wanted to do, and you know, as a loving mom, she's a fantastic mom, but she said, you know, that's great, but you take your time, take your time. It'll happen eventually, right? Now that was end of 2016, beginning of 2017, I said, you know, screw it, I'm just gonna launch it, right? I launched it. I interviewed some of my family members, and it just sort of exploded, right? People were like, this is so cool, you need to do more of this. They said, you know, they're like, hey, interview my brother, my sister, my cousin, my uncle, you know, they have an interesting story, right? And I thought that it was going to be so hard for me to find guests, right? But they were giving me guests left and right. And so the whole point of this story is that I realized at that moment, I remember sitting at work, I remember launching it, and then I was just checking my Facebook all the time. And at that moment, I realized I did not need anyone's permission to do what I wanted to do.
That's good.
I wanted to do a talk show. I didn't need to go and get someone's permission. Right. I didn't need to go tell my mom and dad, hey, mom, dad, can you give me permission? Or go to some of the leaders of the Hmong community or whatever and say, hey, can you? I'm no, none of that had to happen. I realized, wow, no one stopped me. There was no barrier, right? It was just myself.
Yeah.
And I did it, and then ever since then, that's been sort of my motivating force. Is sort of I posted about this recently. Sort of why not, right? Like why not have a Hmong talk show? Why not have HCon, a TED-like stage? Why not, do things, right? And exactly. And so I keep asking myself that question, and I'm starting to find out, wow, there's no reason why I can't, And I think most young people don't ask themselves the question, right?
I highly agree with you on that, because I think a lot of times what a lot of young entrepreneurs do is they don't want to rock the boat.
Right.
And you're right, they keep telling themselves that they need permission from their parent, from their boss, from their spouse, whoever it is, or from themselves.
Exactly.
They keep telling themselves that they need permission to do something, but really it's just they're finding excuses. Because they've been comfortable for so long, like they've been in their own little boat for so long that if they rock it, they're afraid they might tip over. But then the thing is, they don't realize that, hey, you know how to swim. So even though the boat tips, you're gonna know how to swim soon as shore. It's funny how you said that, because I'm now speaking to a lot of leaders that serve this community. One of them is married,
older.
Okay. Once I got to know her more, she feels like, because she's a woman in the community, nobody wants to hear her out, and that's a big issue. And it's still going on now. I talk to a lot of my aunties, I speak to a lot of mothers and leaders, women that are leaders, and a lot of them don't want to rock the boat because they're like, oh, I gotta wait for my husband. He's the head of the household. Oh, I gotta wait for our clan leader because we don't want to rock the boat. And I think that's such a big thing. And I think when I spoke to her about this, she feels like she wants to do so much, but nobody wants to support her because she's a woman. And I think our program or an organization like Hmongmentum is going to be huge, because it's going to be able to draw those people out that has that natural entrepreneurship in them. It's going to draw them out to be bold and be like, you know what, Jonathan, you're right. I don't know if you remember, but then when you first launched that workplace, and I came on and we had to do that icebreaker. I said on that icebreaker that I feel like what we need most is for the youth to step up and for the elders to adapt to the change, right? And some of that change is listening to the youth, because a lot of them would be like, I'm older than you, it's my way or the highway. You know, like they're stubborn, they have that ego, they have that pride. But I think a lot of times these older people need to really listen and be like, man, like my kid's gonna be smarter than you one day. And they're the next generation. They're the next generation that's gonna actually like take us somewhere. All right, so
what an introduction! Huh?
you just kind of reminded me so much of how I felt.
Yeah.
So my next question, I think you already answered it a little bit. What else do you do besides Hmongmentum?
Sure. So Momentum, it's my professional sort of career now, right? That's what I hope to form that. But outside of Momentum, I'm very active in my church. You know, I love
what
serving
church do
the
you go
community. It's called Grace Point in Davis. So I started going to church and getting really active in my Christian faith in college, and so that's sort of what led me to just think more critically about things, about life, and I became a philosophy major because of that. And so I a lot of what I do really just stems from my love of people. Like I just love people. You know, I just love being around people. I love helping people, and so Momentum is really just it's just one avenue in which I could just love people, right? I get to love young people by encouraging them and motivating them, right? And so outside of that, I try my best to do what I can to just be around people. I do a lot of community service. I actually twice a week I volunteer through my church at an elderly place in Davis Senior Center, actually. And so we spend time with them, we talk to them. So I actually have people don't know this a lot about me because I don't put it on Facebook, but
that's why I'm interviewing.
Right, I have a lot of I have an interesting amount of circle of friends. I mean, there's my family, and there's the college students that I talk to, and then I have all these like 80 and 90-year-old people that I also spend a lot of time with, and so I think a lot of 26-year-olds they don't try to get out of their peer groups, So I have a very unique perspective on life because I hang around with a lot of different people, and so very much so. So I gain a lot of their wisdom and things like that. So that's what I do. I try my best to just stay. I love hanging out with people, but when I am a little bit more introverted, I'm a real.
You're introverted?
When I'm not around people, and when I like to be introverted, I really like. I'm sort of I'm a YouTube junkie in for certain kinds of content, right?
Yeah.
I'm very nerdy on certain things, so I love watching, certain lectures or interviews, and certain topics, and so that's really where I think in college I really got addicted to watching, interviews and talks and forums and these sorts of things, and that's what really drove me to do what I'm doing now and having these sorts of talks, TED Talks, for example. I could, watch these all day long, and so. Outside of people, I love to just be challenged, learn new things, and read up and watch.
Okay, cool. So then, basically, besides being really involved with your church, you're doing Hmongmentum full time.
That's my full time job. Yeah, I like I said, I had a desk job, 9 to 5, beginning of the year, but I quit it because I felt like there was just, as you were pointing out, there was just so much need, right? Like, honestly, I don't know how many people are full-time thinking about young Hmong people as much as I feel like I am, right? In terms of connecting them with the digital world, helping them become entrepreneurs, become content creators. I'm sure there are people out there, but there's not enough, So I made this risky move of saying I'll quit my job and do this full-time. So that's what I did. Yeah.
Wow. So then, who's paying all the bills?
Yeah. Well, that's a good question. So I sometimes bills, honestly don't get paid until really late. I mean, I'm really, like I said, it's a big risk. One way that I get by is I just do a lot of freelance work, So I'm a freelance digital marketer as well.
Okay.
So I help different clients, especially a lot of, I really like working with, small Hmong businesses, right? Young Hmong entrepreneurs. Who don't know how to navigate the digital world, who don't know how to use social media, who don't know how to build a website, right? That's why we have the boot camp, next week.
Okay.
So that's part of sort of in line with Hmongmentum as well, which is that I just offer the services I know to other entrepreneurs and business owners. And so that's one way I get by. I do a lot of freelance work.
That's cool. Yeah. That's cool. I think one of the biggest challenge of being an entrepreneur is we're not reliant upon that paycheck. Right? Because I think a lot of times what holds people down too from rocking the boat is because not everybody's used to that commission check. Not everybody used to hustling like you get what you pay for.
That's right. And as an agent, you know exactly.
I quit my job 2 years ago, full-time, like guaranteed paycheck 2 years ago when I jumped in, because I knew that this is gonna be like that entrepreneur journey. And I had to tell my wife, I was like, babe, I just want you to know I'm quitting my job. So I'm gonna do this. And I also want you to know that average agent don't get their first paycheck till 6 months later. And so that was super scary for both of us. But for me, I knew my capacity.
And you were already a dad at the time, right?
I was a dad too.
See, that's even another level that I don't have to deal with. You know, I don't have kids yet, but much respect for you, because that's a totally different ball game at that point. You know,
It is, but then, you know, just like what you mentioned earlier, like you're really active at your church. I'm really active at my church too, and like a lot of what the confidence came from was that is like I had to put my trust in God. Like a lot of times I think we stress too much on the fleshly things, and then it gets to us, and he says like to rest your struggles on my yoke, right? Because my yoke is easy, my yoke is light. And that's what I'm learning to do. And part of taking that risk is, okay, God, I'm gonna give it all to you. A lot of it has always been that way.
That's great.
And it's been good ever since. We've been blessed. We've been really fortunate, and we've been connected with great people. That's been leading us to connect with other people. So it's been great. But I think that's the biggest thing is like you knew that quitting your job, this is going to be a huge risk. But the only reason why you're willing to risk everything on the line is because you saw something bigger. Right? And so that leads me to my next question. What is your vision for like Hmongmentum?
Yeah.
I know you spoke a little bit about that, but what is your vision?
Yeah, you know, it's interesting. So let me answer the question with what I thought it was gonna be, right? And when I first started, my vision for Hmongmentum was it was gonna be the digital media marketing agency for the Hmong community, right? Like we would be the place young entrepreneurs and business owners would go to in the Hmong community, where they say, hey, you know, I need help with, you know, Facebook ads, right? So, yeah, go to Hmongmentum, right? Oh, I need help building a website. Oh, yeah, go to Hmongmentum, right? So I wanted to be, that's what I wanted to serve in the Hmong community, to be the resource and the authority for tech and marketing and things like that. Now, it's still partly that,
I feel like
but
it's changed.
Yeah, and it's interesting because what I'm learning is that as the founder, you know, there's sort of this equilibrium or this back and forth between, you know, what I want and then what sort of the market says, right? You know, let me give you an example. When I started the first HCon, I did not expect as many college students to attend. Right. When I first started it, I thought, and as being an agent and anyone in the sales world, you know, I thought it was going to be those kinds of events, right? You know, it was going to be I thought I had to, really sell the event, really kind of showcase the benefits, and I thought it was going to be a lot of young professionals. I thought it was going to be working people that were going to come.
Okay.
But just how things maneuvered, the Hmong community sort of were more willing to support college students, right? And college students were, you know, it seemed like college students were sort of being, you know, their needs were not being met, you know. And so I came in here, offered, you know, sent some students to get sponsored, and then that kind of just blew up, right? And so, long story short, you know, I was like, wow, okay, there's this big need in the Hmong community that with college students that I didn't quite see, and then so Hmongmentum has sort of, you know, taken that on as well. And so, you know, I think at the core Hmongmentum, at the end of the day, I tell people it's for sure the core values are young people, right? So whether they're college students or young professionals or young business owners, it's really young people and then connecting them with the digital world, right?
Okay.
So whatever that looks like, whether that's HCon or boot camps or videos, you know, it can look like different things, but the very core, it's really trying to bridge young people and the internet. So I just want to, people might get offended when I say this, but I'm not building Hmongmentum for my dad or for my mom. You know, I'm not building it for them.
So hopefully you guys enjoy that interview. I know that it was long, like 20-minute long interview. That is why I have decided to cut this into a 4-part series. Hopefully just from the introduction alone, you were able to get a lot of value from that. Again, if you guys want to get in contact with Jonathan, his information will be down below in the descriptions. and you guys could definitely look him up on Facebook and try to connect with him. You know, I truly believe in the vision that Jonathan is trying to bring about with Momentum, because there's so many entrepreneurs out there that needs this information and this type of organization. So hopefully you guys are gonna look forward to the next interview that I will be releasing next Monday. So remember to subscribe if you haven't already and hit that bell button so that way you guys don't miss any videos just like this. Again, thank you guys so much for watching this video until the end. My name is Chia and I will catch you next time. Peace out.